What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to the first of way too many Pay-Per-Viewpoint podcasts for the Smark Moment Smack Talk NXT, or I guess just WWE Stand and Deliver 2025 predictions side of this thing. I am Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert E. Felice.
You just said that, and I realized I think myself and everybody else at Fightful has continued just headlining NXT Stand and Deliver. It's NXT Stand and Deliver.
Everybody pretty much does, but WWE goes out of their way to just have it be WWE Stand and Deliver, so I kind of switch it up here and there, depending on, like, if I'm doing like a headline and it's like, say, two people qualify for the NXT Women's Ladder match. I already have NXT on there. I'm not going to put WWE NXT Stand and Deliver, and here and there, but it's basically WWE NXT Stand and Deliver. It's happening this Saturday at noon Eastern for the pre-show, which the countdown to Stand and Deliver is going to have a match on it. So
a very important match, by the way.
They have a 1 hour pre-show for NXT, and it has a match on it. They have 2 3-hour pre-shows for WrestleMania, and none of them have a match on them. So I don't want to hear any bitching from WWE that, there's not enough time for us to put Chelsea Green on the card or anything like that.
Don't, you asshole, don't start me up early. I already told you that my WrestleMania discussion will be very salty. I'm not as upset for this one. Don't get me started.
We will talk about that tomorrow when we do our predictions for WrestleMania, because as I said, way too many of these pay-per-view points for this week. We got the NXT.
We should get out of the way right now. You're not getting a direct review show for this card.
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm already prepping everything as if we're doing it, because it might just be me doing this for, a very, very short time. But this is scheduled to be a 3-hour and 45-minute show. And again, it starts at noon. So that would mean at the best, if they're able to really stick to their time frame, it's going to end at 3:45, which means that right afterward, 15 minutes later, the pre-show for WrestleMania starts. They're not giving any time in between. And the good thing, though, about that is the pre-show for WrestleMania, it's going to be 3 hours long, and we don't need to watch it because nothing's going to happen on it. So I am kind of working under the assumption that I'm going to have that muted on my screen and doing a post-show. And then
I might join you for that.
Depending on if you're able to join me, and if Callum's interested in joining, or whatever it might be. I'm kind of assuming that it's just going to be me for it. But then again, if that does happen, then we can talk about the Stand and Deliver stuff on post-show things, and somewhere down the line we're going to figure out a way to talk about the stuff that happens. So at least on the preview side of it, we could do this more than ahead of time, and then we'll do the same thing tomorrow when it comes to WrestleMania. Then we'll figure out the post-show for this, I guess, like on the fly, because I don't think they're going to end at 3:45. I think they're going to end at 3:50 something.
They're usually better, with NXT as far as like hitting their marks, but you never know.
Well, what I do know is that I want to know what everybody else has to say about these things. I always want to know what you guys have to say that are listening. So if you are on YouTube or if you're elsewhere, there are plenty of different ways for you to chime in with your thoughts. If you are on YouTube, then make sure that you also hit the like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, hit the thanks button, toss a little spare change our way. Make sure that you join the Patreon and all that stuff. And if you're over on YouTube, then the YouTube channel membership is the exact same thing. Again, I am thinking about incorporating more stuff in the future when it comes to things like our Discord server, which I'm going to try to do more and more stuff on Discord now that we are recording through Discord, which also means that I am thinking about incorporating some kind of tier that would give the option for people to join in on the discussion and be able to do like the push to talk thing, or whatever it might be. Again, I don't know too much about Discord as it is, so I am learning as we go. Tried to figure out earlier today if I could get like a custom link without paying for the Nitro thing, and I'm still trying to look into that. But now it's a little bit easier as well to find the Discord on the sidebar of Smark Moment, because I put a little dedicated graphic up there. I put a little thing at the top of the page. So we are definitely getting more and more involved in Discord as of late. Join us on that server if you are interested in taking part in any of that stuff. Of course, the Darkcast tier I already mentioned and all that good stuff there. Quick shout out to fanboysanonymous.com too, just because I already have that up on my screen. And Redbubble and TeePublic, get your merchandise if you want to help support us on that end. So we do have Stand and Deliver to talk about. That's what our whole point is for doing this podcast right now. So yeah, drop your comments on whatever it is and tell us what you think. Because we're going to start breaking down this card, which has at this point, 8 matches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 7 matches.
Crazy. I was going to say that's crazy because when I started the night on the events page, there was technically only 3 confirmed matches because you still had to figure out the opponents for the tag champs and for Ricky. But that's crazy. 7 matches.
In typical fashion, I tried to write up some stuff ahead of time, and they ended up kind of screwing me over a little bit by adding some more things to it. So, hectic day, hectic week. WrestleMania is always just... I love WrestleMania, but man... WrestleMania as a fan is so different than WrestleMania as somebody who works reporting these things. And for, 15 years now, it's been me being like, oh, it's WrestleMania week. Let me pull my hair out, which I have less and less of nowadays. But
yeah, fair.
It's gotten bigger, this card, just from earlier tonight. And the thing that is going to start things off is going to be on the countdown pre-show, a fatal 4-way number 1 contenders tag team match. Now, the setup for this is Ava last week was talking, and this, I'm going to sound like I'm going on a wild tangent here and giving you lots of details, but the reason I'm saying it like this is to show you how stupid they did this. So they set up this title for title match, Stephanie Vaquer versus Julia. Why? We don't fucking know. But it somehow needed to happen when they had that. Stephanie Vaquer beats Julia. She's now double champion. She defends both those titles on NXT. And it's like, all right, well, I guess they're not doing anything where she's not double champion. And then the next week she goes, well, never mind, I'm not double champion anymore. I'm going to vacate the Women's North American Championship, the belt that I had for like 2 weeks before I won the other title. And we're going to settle on who my challenger is. I get to pick the person that I defend the belt against. Let's do a 6-way ladder match to determine who is going to win the North American Championship now that it's relinquished. Vacated title is up for grabs. Who's going to be in the matches? They dragged this out as long as they could to set up these qualifiers. First, we get Zaria. She beats Lash Legend. Kelani Jordan beats Roxanne Perez. And we're all thinking, why is Roxanne here? Shouldn't she just move up to the main roster? That's really weird. Next is Sol Ruca, who they announce ahead of time. Sol Ruca will have a match, and they didn't want to say who she was up against. Well, Sol Ruca ends up going up against Jazmyn Nix, who we don't like anymore for a lot of reasons. But she gets the match because Fatal Influence is given one chance between the 3 of them, and she opts for it. Sol Ruca beats her. Okay. Then they didn't bother announcing it on the show itself last week. It was just like, hey, out of nowhere, it's Izzi Dame and it's Ren Sinclair. Izzi Dame wins. Then they have the Meta Girls, who it's Lash Legend, who lost a qualifier, and Jakara Jackson, who for the most part just like sucks on a lollipop. Like she never really wrestles as much as Lash Legend does unless it's a tag team thing. She's there backstage. Roxanne is there. And the 3 members of Fatal Influence. And they're all complaining that they want some kind of last chance qualifier. And I don't understand why they did this in this kind of fashion or whatever. Ava goes, well, there's not going to be a last chance qualifier, but I have an idea. And that's where they leave it. And then they say for this entire week, all the way leading up to even when the show had already began, It was just, well, we're going to figure out those two other spots. They didn't want to say who was involved. On the show itself, they get a backstage segment where Ava is talking to Roxanne, the Meta Girls, Fatal Influence, and Gigi, Dolin, and Tatum Paxley, who Tatum Paxley just out of nowhere had a match against Lola Vice, and it was just like, yeah, by the way, this is qualifier, Lola Vice wins. And suddenly, there's a triple threat tag team match to determine who will get a shot at the women's tag team titles that are on Raw and SmackDown on next Tuesday's episode of NXT. Again, if you're following me, it's because you're like sitting there mapping this all out in your head. Roxanne's like, well, I'm complaining again because I was complaining last week saying you're probably going to put somebody in a tag team match, and that's not fair because I don't have a tag team partner. She tries to just say, I don't need a tag team partner. Cora Jade comes up and goes, well, that's interesting. And then now they are also in the match. So it's a fatal four-way between Dolin and Paxley. I'm assuming Fallon, Henley, and Jacy Jayne because Jazmyn Nix doesn't need to be in there. Jakara Jackson and Lash Legend and Cora Jade and Roxanne. And the winners will then have a match on Tuesday against either Lyra Valkyria and Bayley or Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, depending on who walks out of WrestleMania with the women's tag team titles that are on the main roster.
That was a mouthful of...
That doesn't even get into the two other women's matches, but we'll put that on the back burner for now.
Yeah, I do think we need to just bleed into the other women's matches.
The four-way tag title thing is now a situation where you have to go, okay, well, the winners of that match directly influenced the winners of WrestleMania. And I didn't get a chance to really think about this ahead of time, but you hit me with something right beforehand that made me go, okay, well, then now I have to rethink some things because, spoiler alert for what we talk about tomorrow, I was very much just going, all right, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez win. That's the end of it. They're just on the card for the sake of putting them on the card. Oh, well, figure out something better next year. But you tossed out.
We're going to talk about tomorrow. I have thoughts on everybody in that match except for Raquel Rodriguez believing they should be in a better spot on the card. I can do a little bit of that right now because one of the things that should absolutely have been on the card is Bayley, Roxanne, or Bayley, Lyra, Roxanne, or something that involves Bayley and Roxanne in the Women's Intercontinental Championship. To me,
that's what I would have done, yeah.
Because we were building a story about Bayley and Roxanne, and Fightful Select had reported, hey, there's plans for it to just continue on the main roster. And Roxanne was called up to the main roster, by the way. And she was in the chamber. And then suddenly she just appeared. And you're like, okay, she can have the one-off with Jordan Grace at the Garden, or at the theater, sorry. The theater
at Madison Square Garden, yeah.
Because you people suck, and you just want your specifics. But no, then she shows up and is like, I want to be in the NXT Women's North American title ladder match. What? Why? Go to the main roster already. And then she loses. Okay, cool. She's going to go. And then she's complaining about this. Now I am firmly in the camp of they split her from Cora thinking Battleground would be the farewell. And then it wasn't. And now they're just like, hey, girls, for the third time in your very short WWE careers, can you just make up in character because we shouldn't have split you? And now
we don't really have a plan for Roxanne quite yet. We're probably going to draft her in May or whenever we do the draft, but we ought to kill some time, and we don't want her to just completely sit this out. So, Cora, can you step in and be a tag team with her in one of our many, many multi-person matches so we can get you and her, mostly her, on the card?
I'm now convinced that they are not only winning Cora and Roxanne, I'm convinced they're winning the tag titles, and that's how you call both of them up. Because we're at a point right now where it makes them look like, okay, cool. They can go to Raw, they can go to SmackDown, they can go to NXT. Okay, Cora wins a title. Okay, they're now on the main roster. This solves some of the Roxanne Bailey thing. And Cora was also in there as well. And there can be like this cool, behind the scenes thing of like Lyra and Cora and Roxanne all getting to do this thing with Bailey because she's now just like this tenured veteran. I think that's the way to go. Totally changes my prediction for WrestleMania because I was also just like, it's Judgment Day. They're probably just going to win. And then Lyra will get some kind of direction on the Raw after Mania for the women's IC title. But now I'm convinced it's going to be Cora Roxanne. And they get the titles on Tuesday. Which, by the way, not going to belabor this point too much. But this should be a match to determine who fights for the challenge, who fights for the titles on Sunday. Because wouldn't that be an awesome thing if you just created a WrestleMania moment for two NXT people?
And instead, their thought process is we're going to get 2 main roster people on NXT on Tuesday.
Yep, because that's our way of saying the WrestleMania week, you never know what's going to happen.
It's also, it's WrestleMania SmackDown. Like, we had the graphic again. They didn't call it in the same official capacity as what they did for those 1 or 2 years before where they tried to make that be a thing. But it's WrestleMania SmackDown, which means then it's... Oh, did they call it? I saw the graphic, yeah, but I didn't see them.
All of the graphics that I sent you, they all call it WrestleMania SmackDown.
Okay, so then they are going deeper into that.
That's just a thing that they're going to do. By the way, I'm really trying to be nice and save it for WrestleMania, but me, it doesn't count, guys. It doesn't count.
It doesn't.
You can't put the machine guns on WrestleMania SmackDown and say it's WrestleMania. It's not.
So I don't know a game plan yet for what we're going to do for the hot tags. To be perfectly honest, I'm going to put that out there. We've been doing that on Thursday nights, but Thursday night is also going to be this TNA Unbreakable thing. Depending on how available you are during Unbreakable, we might just do the hot tags together while having that on or something. I don't know. Maybe we'll even make that a live thing or something. I doubt it, but we'll probably just record it like that, or I'll just do it on my own or something. But point being, when it comes to WrestleMania SmackDown and it comes to this, WrestleMania NXT or whatever like that, it does not count. And prediction wise, I'm still curious if they're going to change anything up. We'll talk about a little bit of that tomorrow on the WrestleMania predictions, but not having the ability to do the hot tags after SmackDown to change up some stuff for Mania and all that, WWE makes it impossible. It's impossible for anybody to do this kind of a job separately.
We'll say we are in a bit of a pickle in that there's at least one major match for WrestleMania that we cannot accurately predict. Because we ain't gonna know who Randy Orton's opponent is tomorrow when we do this.
Right. So everything that we're talking about here, everything tomorrow, everything potentially on the hot tags, there's all sorts of different things that are going to be look, we might seem like we're out of dated, but it's just because WWE's not making it easy. Now, my prediction might change when it comes to this Fatal 4-Way match, even tomorrow. But right now, I'm currently still under the assumption Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are retaining at Mania. And then that makes me look at this and I go, well, who the hell would they go up against? Because it's not Fatal Influence. Absolutely not 100%. Even if Lyra and Bailey win, it's not going to be Fatal Influence that beats them or challenges them. They're going to argue. They're not going to get along well enough to be able to win this match. It could be the 3 others, though. And I like the idea of Lyra and Bailey dropping the titles immediately because I don't think that they should be tag team champions. And if they dropped them to Cora and Roxanne, I'm cool with that. I don't think Cora is really able to come up to the main roster quite yet, but maybe it's like a sink or swim type of a thing too.
Yes, she's ready.
I don't think she is. Roxanne is. I don't think the Cora is. But, plenty of times people come up from NXT and they're not ready and it ends up working out. And then other times they are more than ready and it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? Look at Cameron Grimes. Like that dude sat around for a year without not doing anything, and then they put him up, and then they're like, "Yeah, but we don't actually like you." Bye. Awful. Shame.
Yeah, terrible.
But I'm kind of thinking maybe Metagirls or Dolin and Paxley win this, and it ultimately is just an episode of NXT. And there have been plenty of times in the past where I've thought, oh, they're making a big deal out of this. Like the women's tag titles are going to be down in NXT and it's going to be whatever. Or like Metagirls come up to the main roster and they have a match on SmackDown or whatever it might be. They've been doing this for a while and it never means anything. It's always like, hey, Lash Legend is in that United States title match and we're not going to see her again for 3-5 months, whatever it is. So I kind of think that Metagirls win. And this is just a continuation of them perpetually getting this like title opportunity, and they just lose to Liv and Raquel.
Yeah, I think if Metagirls, I'll put it to you like this: my ultimate pick is Roxanne and Cora. My secondary pick is Metagirls, and it's a close second because they've done main roster pay-per-views already, so they could just win the titles on Tuesday, and that's their way of soft transitioning to the main roster full time.
Because it's certainly not like metaphor is the thing anymore. Noam Dar hasn't been around in forever, and Ora Mensa has been demoted to Evolve.
Now, you say that, but we're going to talk about another individual who was briefly on Evolve that is now back on the main roster. Or main NXT roster. This is getting confusing. I'll tell you what's not confusing. It's not going to be Gigi Dolin and Tatum Paxley, and it's not going to be Fatal Influence. I could see either one of those teams becoming the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions.
Possibly. But Dolin and Paxley win a match that's on Thursday, and I think that they win. I don't
is wrestling at TNA Rebellion.
Oh.
Oh, spoilers, but you'll get there.
I wasn't going to get there. Let's be honest. I don't even remember when the Rebellion's supposed to be, and I'm not.
It's next week.
I'm tuning in to Unbreakable at like 9:50. I'm gonna apparently do coverage for Collision at the same time because everything has to be fucking insane this week. So that's one of the women's matches. So the other one that we were talking a little bit about is that ladder match for the vacated NXT Women's North American Championship. And this, now we have our group of 6 women: Izzi Dame, Kelani Jordan, Lola Vice, Sol Ruca, Thea Hale, and Zaria. Now, the people who lost those matches, by the way, just to recap that moment again, Zaria had beaten Lash Legend. Lash is on the pay-per-view. Izzi Dame beat Ren. Ren Sinclair is not involved in this whatsoever. Kelani Jordan beat Roxanne. She's on the pay-per-view. Lola Vice beat Gigi Dolin, or Tatum Paxley. Tatum Paxley's on the pay-per-view. Sol Ruca beat Jazmyn Nix. She's on the pay-per-view, but not necessarily wrestling. And Thea Hale beat Carmen Petrovic, who is not on the pay-per-view. So fuck the 4 of them. They don't get it, or the 3 of them. They don't get an opportunity to do anything else, which is kind of surprising.
They were very clear about that this time around. They said openly last week, they're like, no, we're not doing last
chance qualifier. Yeah. But then it's like, yeah, but then some of you are important enough that you could be in this tag team match instead. If you're Roxanne, if you're Lash, and if you're Tatum, or I guess technically you could count Jazmyn. But some of the stories going on here, both Sol Ruca and Zaria are in there. So Zaruca can work together, but will also be against each other. Izzi Dame is getting an opportunity.
Speed champion, Sol Ruca.
That's right. She just won those titles. Yeah. She beat.
I'll air that on either tomorrow or Friday.
She beat Candice on right after they did the main event taping, or right before they did main event, or something like that. I think, right?
Yep.
Or I don't know, whatever it was. It doesn't matter. It's speed. Nobody cares. But yeah, Sol Ruca won the speed title, so good for her. Lola had not been seen in a little while. And Thea Hale had not been seen in an even longer amount of time. She last had her singles match at Great American Bash last year. So they waited, coming close up to a year at this point. 9 months. But
she was around, though. She was just
not doing anything. And she had a little backstage thing with Andre Chase, Kale Dixon, and Uriah Connors, where she's like, look, I'm not in Chase U, but I give you my support. And
I'm a Chase U alum. Go start Chase U, the new class. Did you like Saved by the Bell new class?
I don't think anybody did they?
I don't think so. I don't know if people liked when the Boy Meets World kids went off to college. Chase U.
I didn't like Scrubs the med school season of that. That didn't work. It never works.
Chase U, the new generation, new with a U because it's Chase U. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't know how I feel about Thea Hale being like, but you didn't ruin my life, Mr. Chase, because he actively did.
More than once.
You should be the fucking NXT champion. He gambled away your chances and then forced you to lose because he gambled away your chances. Yeah. You should be mad at him, but whatever.
You should be like, I don't want to associate with you anymore. You threw in the towel, and you're the reason why Duke Hudson's fired and Riley Osborne has been demoted to the Evolve cast.
But instead, she's just like, it's okay, Mr. Chase. As a Chase U alum, I give you my full support to start the new Chase U.
You know what she's doing the equivalent of? When you graduate from college and then you get bombarded with those things that are like, hey, how about you donate? And you're like, first off, I don't have any fucking money because I spent it all on you motherfuckers. And second, we're in a world where it doesn't matter if you have a degree because it's not going to get you a job anyway. So how about fuck you? God, the amount of times my dad was getting things from, he went to LaSalle University. He was still getting things asking for donations years after he died. And it was eventually had to be like reaching out to them and be like, listen, you haven't gotten any money from us, I think, ever. And you're certainly not going to get any money from him now that he's dead. And they're like, oh, well, we're sorry. And I'm like, hey, should have been decades ago.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So she's just okay with it, which,
she walks to the ring, and I'm not going to let this one go. She's got the Def Rebel sound imprint, and her pre-song soundbite is, I'm a grown-ass woman. And then it breaks into Eddie Edwards' TNA theme. For shoot. Just like that's a great song. It works for her character. Please record more just
anything
things of them saying these lines if you're gonna have them say it. It's like Cora Jade's welcome to the generation of Jade. Like, you can say it with more feeling. Please make them do it until you get a good take.
You don't need to get the AI redo imprint of, okay, well, what if they said this line, but with no enthusiasm and like no actual energy? What if they're as robotic as can be? Chelsea Green's the only one that actually has the whole Chelsea Green kind of thing.
Because, like, she gets it. Like,
but that matters fuck all to get on the WrestleMania card.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Def Rebel, just like how they got this job, taking sound bites, putting it in front of like royalty free tracks and all, is such a hustle. WWE never should have been paying them for this, but her theme is what it is. But people like Carmen and the others that lost, you're just not good enough to make the card on a card that has damn near everybody on it. And same thing for the NXT Men's North American Championship. We'll come back around to that, the tag team division and stuff too. But this group of 6 is really hard to determine who's going to win, because there are really only 2 people that I think don't stand much of a chance of winning. And that is, I think, bottom line, the person who's absolutely 100% not going to win is Izzi Dame. I can't see them giving her the title.
But they do like the culling sometimes.
Temporarily here and there, yeah. But I think this is more about just giving her like a chance to level up.
No, they got rid of that.
Is it a chance for her to evolve?
It could be.
Is there a chance for her to let's fucking go?
All three of those things.
Which, by the way, I had to reformat the whole fucking roster page again the other day because I'm like, it's getting too out of hand that now they definitively do not have the LFG people at Evolve and like all this. So I had to redo that the other day, and I was just like, this is, again, it's way more complicated than it needs to be. Yeah, they're all NXT.
Does the winner of LFG get to Evolve, or what's the deal there?
I think technically the winner of LFG gets, quote, an NXT contract, even though one of the guys, Cutler James, is on this fucking pay-per-view. Not supposed to pay attention to that at all. You're supposed to be like, I don't know if he can get in the mix here. He's working with BJ Ray, you know? But so Izzy Dame not going to win. And I think Kelani Jordan's not going to win either.
Kelani Jordan probably not going to win. I'm going to say Zaruka probably going to cancel each other out in a way that might lead to some frenemy action.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to
Lola Vice and Thea Hale.
Lola Vice, and I think they can win. I think either one of them can win. My heart says Thea. My brain says Lola. I'm going with Lola.
If Soul had not won the speed title, going into, I think it's still even like up on the predictions page right now, because I haven't updated the page yet. I had Soul as my okay, she's probably going to win this. And now that she won the speed title, I'm like, all right, well then she's not going to win it. Like, they don't have the speed champion carry around that title for some fucking reason. I do not understand that. And I would love, again, one of the many questions that I feel like people that have the opportunity to ask should ask these things.
This one's cut and dry. It's exclusive to X, and literally you're not allowed to show it outside of this platform.
So X is like, hey, we want to pay you to put this thing on there, but please do not tell anybody anything about this and get more views.
Yeah, have you seen everything else associated with the man behind X? Yeah, I fully believe that.
It's, again, you fucking people voted for this guy. I don't understand.
Okay, but hold on, they didn't. They voted for the other guy, the guy that's in the Hall of Fame of this company. They didn't vote for X guy.
They did. They knew. Well, no, they didn't know because they're too goddamn stupid. But the point speed doesn't fucking matter, but it still means that she's holding a championship. So I don't think Soul rents this. And I think it would be a little bit weird if Zaria won and then that kind of splits the tag team in a different way. So I am leaning towards either Lola or Thea. And before they even did any of this, I had Lola Vice down as, okay, she's probably going to fight Stephanie Vakura at some point, because they did a little backstage. Or no, it was backstage. It was in the parking lot where Lola was walking by, or Stephanie was walking by, and then she kind of eyed her up. And I was like, okay, they're going to feud at some point, thinking none of this stuff with the Julia thing was ever going to happen. And, all to come back around to the same point. I think Thea's big moment was just her return. And I think that she's going to have a good showing at the ladder match, but she's going to end up coming short. I'm leaning way more towards Lola. I don't think Lola is the right choice for it. I'll say that. I think she's going to kind of flop as a champion, but I think they're going to give it to her.
Fundamentally, I agree with you. I will, however, provide food for thought and say this is the company that had Indy Hartwell win in a ladder match like this solely 105% because it was a good, feel-good moment.
True.
So maybe Thea Hale gets the win. Yeah. I'd rather her win, but I think it's Lola.
Lola would be my second least favorite option. Kind of tied with Kelani. Izzi would be my least favorite because she's just not ready for that. Kelani and Lola, I don't want to see hold this title. But I would go Sol, Zaria, or Thea as like, if I personally chose, I'd probably go Sol. But Thea, both of us have been like in the you should push Thea Hale camp for a long time. And it's great to see her back.
Yeah, and I'm glad that she's a grown-ass woman, even though she doesn't need to announce it to the world.
So then let's just roll along with the other women's match. Stephanie Vaquer does make her decision of who she wants to fight, and it's everybody that was in the title scene. So it's Jada Parker, Jordynne Grace, and Julia, the person who needed to have the title taken away from her for some reason. So this means that she is not injured and that she does not have the visa issue. So why did she need to drop the title? The only thing I can think of is that they thought she was injured in a way that it was going to be a problem, or they thought that she was going to have a visa issue. And they went, well, shit, let's just take the title off of her and be safe. And then in the meantime, like a week or two later, it ended up being, we got that all sorted out and it's not going to be a problem. Okay, well then now we could just add her back into the match instead.
Yeah, I think that's 100% what happened.
Kind of like the thing that happened with Mr. Kennedy, where it was like, oh, Undertaker is injured, so Kennedy, we need you to cash in Money in the Bank. Oh, well, you're injured. Well, you need to give that to Edge. And then like 2 days later or whatever, it's like, Kennedy's not actually injured. How you could have done that?
Yeah, he was back within like a month. Poor guy. But you know what? I can't lie. That kicked off much better stories. So, it is what it is. But with Julia, I definitely think they were playing it safe, which is smart. I'm all good with that. It clearly threw off some of the other women's stories, but I think everything worked out for the best, with the exception of the fact that I fully believed Jada Parker would be leaving this event with the North American title. But since they've thrown her in here, she's just going to get a showcase.
And she's also going to get pinned.
There's a lot here that makes me believe maybe it's not as cut and dry as, and Jordynne Grace is your new NXT Women's Champion.
Oh, I don't think that at all.
Do you think Stephanie's just retaining?
No.
Do you think this is going to go back to Julia? I
think it's going back to Julia. Yeah. I think Julia wins the title and she pins Jada. So that way Jordynne Grace gets to say she didn't lose and that Stephanie says she doesn't lose. And then that sets up another rematch between Vaquer and Julia, where Julia will officially, if she hasn't already by then turned heel, like 100%, Julia will have turned heel in that rematch, at least by then. She retains over Stephanie, and then she fights Jordynne, and then Jordynne beats Julia. I'm booking like 3 months in advance.
Yeah, you're way far ahead.
Yeah. Vaquer gets a short title reign, but she gets the ability to be like, yeah, but I was double champion.
I'm going to keep it simple, stupid, and just say Jordynne Grace wins the title.
Who do you think takes the fall?
Oh, Jada Parker. Poor Jada.
And that's a possibility too. It could end up being that Grace wins the title and it's like, oh, Julia was champ, then Vaquer, then Grace, and then we need to have like a 3-way and Jada Parker's not involved or something like that. They can play around with that, but I'm leaning more towards that they wanted to have Julia versus Jordynne and that it would have been Vaquer defending the North American title. And then whatever the hell it was that led to Julia having to drop the title, that they're just going to come back around to it, I think.
All we know, it could have been literally these 4 women just in 2 singles matches.
Yeah, I think it could have been Vaquer versus Parker for the North American.
Yeah.
So that is a mess. But I am looking forward to all 3 of these matches. Less so the Fatal 4-by tag team match, of course. But, 6 women in a ladder match, cool. These 4 women in the NXT Women's title match, awesome. Less so interested.
Right here, yeah. Okay, right here that you're not excited for something.
2 matches that I'm not particularly fond of for this. One is a 6-man tag team match between the family and DarkState. We don't know the 4 people in DarkState being taken down to 3 yet. Of course, it could be any of the 3 in a combination. I am assuming it's not going to be the same 3 that wrestled the 6-man tag that we had on NXT recently, but then again, who sits it out compared to the other ones? Take a pick between it. It really doesn't matter, but Cutler James, Osiris Griffin, Saquon Sugars, and Dion Lennox. 3 of those guys up against Tony D'Angelo, Luca Crusifino, and Channing Stacks Lorenzo. They had a parking lot fight without Tony D'Angelo, but with a bunch of extras that did not look like they would be a part.
It felt a little West Side Story for me for 5 seconds. Like,
it was pretty stupid.
They're all lighting up. There's no music, but if there was music, it would have been full West Side Story.
If they would have done the finger snaps too.
The family got their asses kicked when you consider how many extra boys they had.
Oh, they were complete non-factor. They were the equivalent of like in a movie or a TV show or whatever, where you just have the disposable mooks.
Yeah, like Batman is just taking out the Joker's goons. It's just like, here's 20 goons with guns, and Batman's just gonna, roundhouse kick them all.
I forget what the context was, but the other day I'm walking around and walking around in New York because you have to fucking walk everywhere here. And I specifically pointed somebody out to Caroline, and I was like, "Oh, that person's a red shirt." And she's like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing writer's terms right now. Yeah, that's basically an NPC that you would like kill off with like nobody would know that person's name, their background furniture or whatever." And that's what these people were. They're a bunch of red shirts. So they stood there for a split second and then got their asses kicked. And then Luca and Stacks fought with the 2 other guys, 2-on-2 kind of a thing, or 4-on-2, I should say. So Tony D comes up with a crowbar. He runs them off, and then he's like, "Hey, what the fuck you doing?" And let's have a match. And it's just a 6-man tag. Now, I would like this so much better if there was a 4th man in the family and they did an 8-man tag, and you had somebody fun show up, whether that was like, I don't know, let me call in a partner for something, or let me bring a main roster person down. That could be kind of fun. Get another person on the card. I don't know who, but like...
Oh shit, they're bringing back Santos Escobar.
I mean, they did that before, but I don't think that they would do that now.
Yeah, they did.
But like, wouldn't that be kind of more fun to just be like, "Hey, I called in a favor from like Pete Dunne."
Well, Luca Crusifino is now Chelsea Green's lawyer. Maybe she can get Mac right out on the phone.
It's a 6-man tag, regardless of what it is, though, and it's just a pointless 6-man tag. So it's going to be a means for DarkState to win, and I don't really care too much about it.
Does Stacks do the turn here?
Possibly.
If
something's happening there.
A member of DarkState.
No.
Do you think this is all we're going to see of DarkState today?
No.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at too. I think it's going to be the 3 who wrestled already. I think Osiris Griffin will be on the outside again. I think they will hit their swinging top rope shield bomb thing that they do. It's cool, but I don't know if they can do it with consistency. But when they do it, it does look cool.
I do think that they are winning, and I do think that the family is going to lose somebody soon, whether that's Stacks overtaking Tony D or Tony D booting Stacks out or something, but I think more than likely Tony D is going to be leaving. And it might not happen from an actual like split. It might be Tony D gets drafted up to the main roster and he says like, "All right, well, I trust you, Stacks, to hold down the fort in NXT," or something. I don't know. But I don't think the family wins this. And I'm not super into that, nor am I super into the NXT tag team title match. Fraxiom, it's up against the winners of the tag team gauntlet, which, hey, WWE, you're on repeat mode. You had Lyra and Bayley have a gauntlet match with other tag teams where they started and went through every single team to earn a title shot at the last minute. So what do you do with these? You have Hank and Tank start the match and go through every single team to earn a title shot at the last minute.
You know,
same exact thing.
It's like Sean and Hunter are doing the thing where you and I talk to each other and we're like, okay, what can we pre-write for our respective websites? And we just have the same like kind of layout for pre-writes. That's exactly what Sean and Hunter are doing here. It's like, how we getting here? Gauntlet, got it. I will say this gauntlet made sense. It made a lot of sense. The match itself makes a lot of sense. Hank and Tank are doing this thing where they need to find their identity as a team. They kept losing to all these teams. They just beat them all by being themselves. It's a very cheesy story, but it works. I just think this isn't what I would have wanted to see. I wanted to see like Fraxiom, Parties, ladder match, or like Fraxiom, DIY, Fraxiom, Motor City Machine Guns. This isn't the match I wanted, but I'm looking forward to it in the sense that I haven't seen Fraxiom have a bad.
I just assume that this is going to be pretty standard by the books. Nothing special about it. And if Hank and Tank win, I think that's a really bad decision for the tag team division because they're just not a strong enough tag team. And if Fraxiom retain, then I'm going to feel like, well, you couldn't have thought of something better for Fraxiom to do because they do have the option of the people that you were just talking about. Like, it's not like DIY has something else better to do. It's not like the Hardy Boys are too busy for WrestleMania. Like, realistically, they should have been Fraxiom versus DIY. Or Fraxiom versus Hardy Boys. And Hank and Tank, okay, your names rhyme. You know?
Well, they're the Belly Boys now.
They are so hard for me to type out. If anybody ever sees a typo on anything, it's like the other day I had
Hank
what was
Wanker,
it? Hank Wanker and Hank Talker, I think was something or Tank Talker or whatever.
It was Hank Wanker and Tank. It was something also just silly because I remember just laughing. Like
I'm like, why am I typing? It's so hard to type that for some reason for me. No, newer as hard as some of the other people on this roster though. I hate typing out some names. Like I hate typing Channing Stacks Lorenzo all the fucking time.
You typed out Hank Wanker and
Hank
Wanker. Hank Wanker and Wank Talker. What are you doing? Were you typing this out one-handed? What was in your other hand there, Tony? Like,
well, if you want to know, donate to the Patreon. Donate to the Smark Moment OnlyFans account or something. I don't know. I say that as if I wouldn't fucking do it if enough people told me that they would be interested. Like,
would.
I'd do that in a heartbeat. I would be like, all right, well, what do I gotta, how do I set this up? I'm thinking Fraxiom just retains.
I hope so.
I do think
it's also a nice fairy tale ending if Hank and Tank actually win. They can lose to DarkState real quick.
If Wank Talker wins.
If good old Hank Wanker and Wank Talker. What the fuck?
That's just going to be the name going forward. They've merged as just Wank Talker. There you go. Ethan Page won the Fatal 4-Way number 1 contenders match over Wesley, Eddie Thorpe, and Lexis King to get the North American title shot for the men's North American title against Ricky Saints, which it is way too early for Ricky Saints to lose that championship, so that is not going to happen. He is just going to retain over Ethan Page, and they arguably should have incorporated Shawn Spears and Lexis King and just been like, look, here's your AEW match.
No, I think they did it right.
It's not like every other match on the card isn't multiple people,
Yeah, and I think these two are like, if you're going to have a crowd chant, Tony fumbled, you do it with these two. Because they were and could have continued to be top AEW stars. With Spears and King, I don't get the same vibe.
they're not as much accomplished. That's for sure. Like, there's a difference between the way that they've been. Like, look at Shawn Spears. He finally wins a championship after all these years, and he immediately loses it.
It's the kind of match that I'm looking forward to. I'm sure it's the kind of match that they're looking forward to seeing what they can put together, and I hope it's a really good one.
I think it'll be okay. I don't think it's going to be the best match by far. I'm way more looking forward to like the women's matches than this one. But I do think that, Ricky Saints is good. Ethan Page is good. They're in a better spot to succeed than they were in AEW. Now, you do this exact same match in AEW, and I think that some parts of it could be better just because of the style being a little bit different. But I also think that maybe working a WWE style does just suit these guys a little bit better. And
I would agree.
There are certain people that, they're far better off on one roster than another one. Mariah May, we might find out at the end of this year or next year.
There's a lot of talk about that. And
came out of nowhere in my mind. Yeah, that's a hot tag for sure. I think Ricky Saints retains.
I'm going to say Ricky Saints retains.
Which, as far as the typo thing is concerned, I am still struggling to not type out Ricky Starks, which then means that every time I go to type out Ricky Saints, I write out Ricky Stains. Every time.
Ricky Stains.
So that's what.
Hold on.
That's what happens when Wank Talkers. He gets a Ricky Stains.
Hold on, you got Hank Wanker and Ricky Stains. And okay.
Is that not swipe right or what?
What were you doing when you were saying this?
That's just new swipe right. So.
Oh God, that's funny.
Let's see what else we got here. Oh, we only have one more match to talk about. It's the triple threat for the NXT Championship. Obafemi against Javon Evans, the old bouncy boy, and Trick Williams. Whoop that trick. It could theoretically go to any of these three, but I am still on the same train. I still think the Trick is working with DarkState and that he's going to use them to take out Obafemi, and then he's going to pin Javon Evans.
First of all, when I hear Obafemi, I just think, Obafemi, what a night.
Me telling you that just ruined that, right?
Which is just like the fifth thing that you've taken space in my brain with. I would love for Javon Evans to win here. Like, just as a fun, feel-good moment, I'd love for it to be Javon. Obafemi could go up to Raw or SmackDown at any point, to the point where Javon Evans literally said that in his promo tonight. Trick Williams could also just leave to the main roster. But we're also talking about Roxanne doing the pre-show of the show, so that's not something that they're in a rush to do. I'm going to guess Trick Williams, and I'm going to guess he's in his I have to do my tour as a heel in NXT bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna guess he wins and he's leading DarkState.
And I don't know who he necessarily feuds with going forward, but I do think he's doing the same pattern as Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker with the heel thing.
Who was Braun Breaker was the first, right? He was like the first 2.0 guy. So there's nobody before that. Because I was gonna say, did Ciampa do it? He kind of did, but not really. But no, that's the pattern. Because even Ilya Dragunov, the deal was kind of like, I'm gonna be super aggressive and mean to you, Trick, because that's the story. We gotta do the whole, you flex your chops as a bad guy. I don't know if I want to see Trick as a heel, though. Like, It just works. People are vibing with the whoop, that Trick. They even tried to get Oba to say, like, they're not saying it anymore. And he's like, are you stupid? Can you not hear them? They're saying it. Yeah. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say if Oba loses, he's getting drafted to the mid roster.
Yeah, I feel like if he loses, that's as good of an indicator as any that they're just hot-shotting him straight up there. Because it'll be weird if he sticks around and he's not champion. What do they do with him, you know? Same thing with Trick a little bit too, but like they can't bring both of them up. And, you know, Trick's been around longer and everything too, so you could make the argument that Oba should retain and Trick should move up. But then again, even if that's the case, who does Oba feud with? And there really isn't anybody that makes me just go, okay, well, Oba Femi is going to go up against that person and that person and that person. I think Trick isn't the best choice for a champion right now either, but I just keep feeling like maybe they feel like he's not ready yet. Or maybe they feel like he does need to do that whole NXT heel turn thing. Something's off about it for sure.
Hot shot. They need to just. You want to talk about reuniting tag teams like Cora and Roxanne? They need to just put Mello and Trick on the main roster together. Mello, unfortunately, is not thriving.
No.
And I think that is 100% due to the fact that you just didn't give him the US title.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Like, Mello isn't thriving right now. I think the pairing with Trick might help him. I'd love to see that just be a thing. I'd love for the swerve to be Javon's actually the villain. But that's highly unlikely. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go Trick, but I'm not super confident. I will say I know we're in an era where stuff like this feels like it gets talked about just because, but it is super cool to see like 3 unique black dudes doing their thing in the main event of WWE pay-per-view. And that's a lot of fun. I think all 3 of these dudes have the potential to be major players on the main roster one day. But the build to this show in particular has felt very frantic, and like none of it was actually what they were going for when they mapped out the event at the beginning of the year.
Which then feels the same when it comes to WrestleMania.
Makes you think.
Is this the first time that 3 black men have ever been in the main event of a pay-per-view?
I'm going to guess yes.
I can't remember another instance where that was the case, because there's been like 2 black superstars against each other, but I don't remember 3.
Yeah, and like they're all completely unique. They all have their own vibe. I think that's awesome.
There's small, medium, and large.
They are small, medium, and large. You know, one's showmanship, one's power, one's speed.
Yep. It's like you're doing the create a character, like do you want the glass cannon? Do you want the
Yeah, it's very much built around archetypes, but I like what this is. You know, I think realistically if this happened 6 months ago, the main event of the show would have been Ricky Ethan for the NXT title. You know, and I must say I'm fully surprised there's 0 TNA on this show.
Yeah, nothing at all TNA related, to the point that like they might not show anything about that. Like they could have incorporated people like we mentioned, the Hardy Boys, and maybe they could have done something with Joe Hendry or whatever, but maybe their game plan is just going to be something as simple as like, oh, and look who's in attendance tonight, because they fucking love that lately. It could be like, look who's in attendance tonight. It's the TNA Knockouts champion, Masha Slamovich. And it's Joe Hendry. They just had their stuff at Unbreakable. And, you know, it could be that kind of a thing. Because they're even like promoting Unbreakable on the TNA or the NXT Twitter account.
Well, yeah, because Ethan Page he's working the main event of Rebellion. And I'm sure that will also play a role in Unbreakable.
So I had asked this question a while ago. And and we've been far enough away from it that I feel like I could ask it again. Between Adam Cole, Adam Page, Ethan Page, Christian Cage, and Brian Cage, who's the best right now?
Well, I think there's also Paige.
There's Page, yeah.
Probably not coming back. I think
out of Page and Page and Page and Cage and Cage and Cole.
I think most would probably say Hangman Page is the best, and he is the most likely to headline a pay-per-view at this very moment. But I think Adam Cole is a solid number 2 because he just captured the TNT title.
I'm going to revisit that in the future again. So that is the NXT Stand and Deliver, or WWE Stand and Deliver, or WWE NXT Stand and Deliver, whatever it is, 2025.
Or NXT WrestleMania.
WrestleMania NXT, yeah. It might even get to the point where they just do that in the future.
It's WrestleMania Saturday.
Well, I mean, it is WrestleMania Saturday. Like, they do say WrestleMania Saturday, so.
And by the way, that's the way you understand it, because it sounds better, because CM Punk is headlining WrestleMania. I have so many thoughts.
Used to be night 1, night 2. Now it's WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday.
I do agree that sounds better.
Yeah, overall, because it is like people say Super Bowl Sunday.
And it's also like it makes it its own show, because you're not doing WrestleMania 41. It's more just like, okay, this is WrestleMania Saturday. It's its own show. Then WrestleMania Sunday will be its own show. That sounds better to me.
Yeah. Stand and Deliver, not my favorite pay-per-view name. Not by a long shot, but...
NXT TakeOver Sin City would sound so good right now.
I didn't love the takeover things, but I liked when they did that based off of the location, because it made sense. Like, it was like Takeover Boston. Okay, well, you're taking over Boston. I hated it when it was like Takeover Arrival or something.
Takeover Fatal 4-Way.
Yeah, Takeover Respect. Fucking awful. But we do have the WrestleMania pay-per-view point predictions to get into, which we will probably be doing Wednesday afternoon. And we will just do combination of the both, Saturday and Sunday cards. We do have an episode of the hot tags that will be recorded in some fashion at some point, whether that is by myself or with you and or Callum, either during TNA Unbreakable or afterward. I don't really know. Too many things to keep track of. And then, of course, we do loop back around to the NXT Stand and Deliver potential post show. That would be happening at the same time as the beginning of WrestleMania's pre-show for Saturday. But again, the pre-show is 3 hours long, and it doesn't really matter. But I do think we'll probably do something for that. So stay tuned for all those things. Again, if you want to show us your support, there are plenty of different ways for you to do that. Hit the like button on this, or subscribe, or pass this around with the share button, leave a comment. Those things are totally free. If you want to toss a little spare change our way, plenty of different means for you to do that too, through Redbubble, TeePublic, Patreon, the YouTube channel membership, and the thanks button. Or, there's even a PayPal thing at the bottom of the smarkatmoment.com. If you're that type of person who would rather use that. Keep in mind as well, the link tree, go to amangotree.com or anthonymango.com, and you'll see a link list of everything that I've got that you could be following if you are into things like checking out my Letterboxd or subscribing to Fanboys Anonymous content or whatever it might be. You can find that all there, and check out what Rob's got going on as well.
You can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. That's on Letterboxd, that's on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. I got a sneak peek at a new Twitch layout. If I ever have a room again, maybe I'll go back to Twitch. Other than that, check out my stuff on Fightful. And I thank you all for all of your support. And Wank Talker and Hank Wanker, thank you as well.
That's what would their tag team name be? Leave a comment below.
The Wankers, obviously. They're just the fucking Wankers.
I don't know. There's got to be some kind of tie-in with Mae Young's hand or something. Maybe it could be their manager. Five finger something or other.
Hand stuff. No talking.
Anyway, that's gonna do us in for this episode. I don't know how to follow that up. We will see you tomorrow with the WrestleMania predictions, and adios for now, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment. Yeah, that's true. We are being counted out.